Pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome once again to the Carlos Brown Show. Heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Boy, the guest menu today. I was going to tease you a little bit and try to get you to maybe guess who this my first guess was going to be. But I better not do that. So let me just tell you, a guest menu looks like this. He's a legendary coach in the conference. Very successful, undefeated against Coach Eddie Robinson. And that's no small feat. 12 wins in the Bayou Classic. You get the drift. Coach Pete Richardson. He'll join me at about 10:15. In retirement now, still in the city of Baton Rouge, and he's doing well. He'll join me in hour number one. Then we'll follow Coach Pete Richardson with another coach, Coach Van Pettaway, the Carlos Brown Show's basketball analyst. He'll join me, and I'm sure he's going to want to talk about, from a basketball standpoint, what is going on in the conference. I'll get to that in 1 second, what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. And then finally, in hour number two, we're going to push him back a little bit, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. He'll join me in hour number two. Here's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. Alcorn State announces changes for both the women and men's basketball position. How ironic. I simply just asked the question last week to Coach Pettaway. Some Alcorn alums and expressed to me that they were very concerned about the basketball program. Ooh, boy, that was quick, but not unexpected to me. But Alcorn State announces changes for the women's and men's basketball position. A national search now will start. Lewis Jackson, head men's basketball coach at Alabama State, now former. He resigns, although I've heard from some of you that is the politically correct answer, but there seems to be something else that some of you are thinking about. Maybe Coach Jackson was forced out. But the official release I got from Alabama State, resigns to move on to something else in his athletic life. Lewis Jackson. Well, I'll ask Coach Pettaway about that. He's in the state of Alabama. Get his thoughts on that. The NCAA, in light of everything that's going on now, no March Madness, no NCAA basketball tournament, they have said in a statement that they're going to cut distribution to Division I schools by $375 million. You do the math on that. They were projecting $600 million. So 375 from 600. You do the math. And it's because of what's going on in the world, the most dominant story, the coronavirus and its effects. And it leads me to this. I'm cautiously optimistic. There's a very good chance, in my humble opinion, there will not be any NFL and college football. And I know some people live for it. Don't go out and do anything bad if it's not going to happen this year. But just my opinion. It may, but I don't know. I don't feel good right now about it. And there are things more important than I'm going to say it, than sports, especially when you have a large gathering of people coming in the stadiums. Are you going to be comfortable with that? So we shall see. We shall see. Joseph Lowry, civil rights icon, passed away. And we'll just simply say journey well. And Curly Neal of the Harlem Globetrotters, he passed away this past week, living right outside the city of, Houston, all in Houston. Johnson C. Smith University graduate. But when you thought of the Globetrotters, you thought of Curly Neal, fantastic, a magician with the ball, dribbling, and notably no hair. I can appreciate it now. Did back then. And also Meadowlark Lemon. But journey well. Joseph Lowry, Curly Neal. 5 minutes after 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Coming up in about 10 minutes, Coach Pete Richardson, former football coach, legendary coach at Southern University. Dr. Prince, I would like to say good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, my friend. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fine and well. How about yourself?
I am fair and midly kicking. I'm doing quite well on this end, man. The family has been secure despite everything that's going on around us, and we're holding on to God's unchanging hand.
That's the best pair of hands. That's better than Allstate and State Farm.
There you go.
Although you need them,
and I don't have to wear. I don't have to have any khaki pants on.
Well, yeah. I understand that, but those are good hands.
Yes, sir.
To be in.
Yes, sir.
Literally.
What about you on your end, man? How are things going over there in Baton Rouge?
Well, doing okay. Being cautious, taking precautions. Of course, the whole state of Louisiana, basically they limited your movement unless you're essential worker or what have you. You can go to the grocery store, get you some groceries, but they're trying to encourage as many people to just stay home.
Right. It's the safest thing to do. Safest thing to do.
And so, thank God everything is well. Some people are even checking their temperature every day. And so, hey, just got to be safe, be smart, and pray.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that's the way I look at it. And prayer is important. I understand that.
No doubt about it. You won't have no arguments from me on that.
Well, I understand. Our trending stories. Interesting. Last week, Coach Pettaway basically, when I asked him, should Alcorn State fans, alums, be concerned about their basketball situation, and then, wow, Alcorn State comes out, Derek Horn, he makes a move.
Oh, he made a mighty move, and like you said, we've heard the whispers, but I didn't think that the trigger would be pulled as fast, although there have been moves made across the country, various different conferences, making fires, making hires, doing this, that, and the other, and moving as business as usual. And I understand that part of it, but what a time to lower the boom on somebody in such a time that we're having right now.
Yeah. Well, I've heard from some of my close associates, and one in particular, he was livid. He said, poor taste, bad timing. Although I've heard from some Alcornites that they were not surprised. They said the move was necessary. Now, I guess the debate will be the timing, in light of what's going on now.
Right.
But I think eventually it was going to happen.
No doubt. Now, here's the question,
Coach Robinson.
3
winning seasons out of the 5, and I like his response on social media, thanking all Alcornites and the university for, giving them a chance to come there and coach. And he was pretty much proud of his, the APR record under his leadership with the basketball program. And I'm going to ask Coach Pettaway their thoughts on this situation and Charles Edmonds.
Right.
But go ahead.
Now, my question was, is there ever a good time to fire anybody?
No. Because if you look at some of the people that were laid off because of the present situation.
Right.
That's not fun either.
No.
So,
That's almost, the words we use, layoff and temporary. Those are easy ways of saying you were fired in a crunch. And I understand that they sound better, you feel better, but there's never a good time to have that tough conversation with an individual and say, you know what, we're going to have to go in another direction. I appreciate everything that you've done, but you know what it also says, and I don't know all the integral details of the leadership of Derek Horn, but in tough times, there are tough decisions that need to be made, and it's never going to be appealing to either side. Some are going to say great move, some are going to say what a horrible move, but it was a move that they felt necessary to make, or would it be fair to let you ride out this storm of Corona, and then once the storm is over, you fire him? And then they can say, well, man, he went through all this and all that. If y'all was going to fire him, y'all should have got rid of him early. He could have found a job in the midst of all this transition. So it's never a good time to do it on any side.
Well, I'm hearing from all Knights already, and a good point. Here's one. Let me just read it. Derek says their contracts expired. Coaches probably want an answer. Do you let a coach without a contract? Is that even legal? And if so, is it moral to let someone recruit and work without a contract, knowing you don't intend on keeping them? So let's get straight. Their contract, they decided not to renew their contract.
I understand.
And I've seen that happen at Southern and other places.
That's called an at-will employee, because if the truth be told, the head football or basketball coach, especially on our level, they're the only ones with contracts. All their staff, for the most part, are at will. So tomato. Is it good to let an at-will employee work, and then knowing in the back of your mind you're going to have to cut ties with them? So as I go back to the original question, is there ever a good time or a bad time to fire anybody, with a contract or without a contract? You got people that are laid off that didn't have contracts, but they had an agreement that they would come to work. So I'm not choosing one way or the other. I'm just pointing out for the fact that that's part of our job, is to be well-rounded on either side. Yeah,
well, from the standpoint, you're saying let go, fired, but technically they just decided not to renew their contract.
Right, but in the case of Lewis Jackson, would you really resign a state-funded job at such a time as this?
If I'm in that position, I don't know. Is there something else that's going on that we don't know about?
There's always something else going on that we don't know about, or they think we don't know about.
I mean, is it the possibility that he just decided, hey, I've had enough of this, I'm getting harassed, or is it something else that may come up?
Harassment.
And he just resigned.
Harassment is part of the territory. Whether you're in season, out of season, doing good, doing bad, harassment is part of the territory.
Well, he resigned. And if anything else comes out, I'll dig into my sources and see if that's the real skinny. But one thing we do know, he resigned.
Yes, sir.
As head coach of Alabama State. So now you have Alcorn State men's basketball coach and women, contract not renewed. Lewis Jackson of Alabama State, men's basketball coach, he resigns from his position. Now his wife, Frida Jackson, the dean of SWAC women basketball, she's still there. Will she continue to coach? We shall see. And Michael says his contract was up, so do you renew his contract?
You don't have to renew the contract. You could even use the term that we were negotiating contracts until you find out exactly where this thing is going. And I understand you want to get ahead of everything, and who knows? I don't know the integral insides of what's going on. Derek Horn may have a master plan, already have the person in place that he wants to fill that position. I don't know all of that. But all I'm saying, and like I said, it didn't matter one way or the other. I was just bringing up the point, is there ever a bad time to relieve someone of their livelihood, whether it's a coronavirus pandemic or it's springtime and all the flowers are blossoming and blooming and not a care in the air? It's never a good time. But we know these are going to come.
Yeah, one listener says information is important. Lewis Jackson is still with the university. He resigned from his head coaching position. And we'll come back to this because I have the official release from Alabama State. And we'll look a little bit deeper into it. But Alcorn State women and men's basketball position, they will be looking for new leadership. Alabama State, on the men's side, basketball coach, they'll be looking for new leadership. I'm going to take my first time out. And when I come back, I'll be joined by Coach Pete Richardson. 3 CIAA titles, 5 SWAC titles. Oh, say that again. Oh. And 4 Black College National Championships, 12 Bayou Classic wins. Wow. I'll tell you what, Coach Richardson coming up next. True football legend. He'll join me next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Chris, can you put the video game controller down for a second?
I can talk and play. Oh, I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
Well, you still ride your skateboard to work, there's the comic book collection, the race car bed.
Look, I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I picked up a few savings tips at feedthepig.org. I have control over my financial life now, and that feels pretty grown up.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. For free ideas and easy tips on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
So, I bet I look like a grown-up to you now.
Well, except for the footy pajamas, I'd have to agree.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. The human jukebox, that makes me smile. And this next person I'm about to visit with, you can't help but smile. Legendary coach Pete Richardson, 3 CIAA titles, 5 SWAC titles, Black College National Championships, 12 Bayou Classic wins, and I think he's still the same as he was when I first met him. Coach Richardson, good morning to you, sir. Welcome to the Coles Brown Show.
Good morning to you. Hope you're doing fine. Mm-hmm.
I'm doing fine. How about yourself, sir? You and the family?
Well, there ain't no sense of complaining. Just I got up this morning, so I must be doing pretty good.
All right now. You're absolutely right. And you're breathing. That's a good thing. But in light of what's going on, I just wanted to, first and foremost, see how you and the family were doing. And it's just an honor to have you on today's show. Coach, I want to start with, and I know you probably told this story before many times, what attracted you, your interest to come into Southern University to be the head football coach? Can you share that with us?
Well, when I was at Winston-Salem State, North Carolina, we had the opportunity to play Southern up in Shreveport. And I had the opportunity to look at also some of the games on the Bayou Classic. And I thought that was a pinnacle of the HBCs, and I wanted to be a part of it. And when the opportunity came, and they gave me, Dr. Spice gave me an opportunity to come, I thought that that was a great opportunity for me and my family.
Coach Richardson, when getting prepared for this talk with you, I kind of pulled up an article from, it reflect back to 25 years ago, and it mentions when you first came to Southern University in that first year, some of the players were like, whoa. We beat Winston-Salem State the year before, but you brought in, and I'll just say this, organization and discipline. And some of the players at first, that was a big change for them. Can you talk about that organization and discipline coming into Southern University football program?
Well, I knew that they had some outstanding athletes on their team, playing them up in Shreveport. And I knew also that I had a good organization of people around me at Winston-Salem State in order to prepare them, because when you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. And I thought that I had some outstanding coaches assembled on my staff. I had some special offense and defensive coordinators, and in order to give Southern an opportunity to win, of course, leadership, and you have to have that in order to succeed anyway. And of course, they had some outstanding players. Now it's just a matter of convincing them to the program that I was trying to incorporate.
We're visiting with Coach Pete Richardson, former coach at football coach at Southern University. And Coach, if I remember, that staff, everyone it even produced T-shirts in living color because of the makeup of the staff. But I'm thinking Coach Richardson just put together the best staff that he thought, and you wanted to be successful and win, correct?
Well, I thought that, at that time, color really didn't make a difference to me as far as assembling the staff. I was looking for individuals that, first of all, could bring some to the program, especially offensively and defensively, and believe in what was in my concept. And once I did that, I gave them an opportunity to go to visit other organizations and so we can improve what we had, and we had that opportunity to go and visit some different coaching staffs throughout the country, and we were able to bring that back, and we sold our players on that concept. And of course, without that aspect of it, that confidence level, you're not going to be successful.
So, Coach, the old cliche, you're only as good as your staff or the people around you. That's something that is still relevant today in coaching.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing that I had to convince the players is that, I wasn't really worried about height, weight, or speed. I was worried about productivity. And, if you could produce and on especially in practice, improved and bought into the system, I thought that we could do an outstanding job. And, of course, they had some outstanding athletes, and a lot of them, size-wise, they weren't very big, but they left it all out in the field, And once we convinced them, especially, after we opened up and had some success, it just bought into the players.
Visiting with Coach Pete Richardson, former legendary coach of Southern University, football coach. Coach, so you come in, organization, you're big on discipline and fundamentals. You get a chance to evaluate the talent. And then you go up, and I was at this first game in the Superdome against Northwestern State. Coach, can I share with you what my personal thoughts were about that football game?
Sure.
It was okay, you're playing somebody out of the Southland. Had been really successful against that conference. If Southern can just be close in the fourth quarter, they have a shot. And that was my truthful thoughts about that game. Southern goes on to defeat Northwestern State 30-13, and the bar was set that afternoon in the Louisiana Superdome, 30-13, and could have possibly scored even more points. How does Coach Richardson and the staff and the players, are you trying to get them to buy in after that first victory as you being the coach at Southern University? I would think now that they have officially bought in after a big victory over Northwestern State.
Well, you go into, first of all, you come into a program that had a variety of coaches in a short period of time, and the confidence level was real shaky, especially with the people that was involved in coming to watch us play. I think a lot of them was looking for excuses when we went in, but they understood that once we left out of the dome that afternoon, that we had some quality people on our program. Now it was just a matter of convincing them consistently that they had to improve. And I think our assistant coaches did an outstanding job of game preparation. And if you're going to be successful, they have to buy into that. And it is going to require them to make some personal sacrifices. I mean, there are some things that, you weren't going to be able to do. And the large part of that is prepare yourself in order to be successful. And it's going to take some effort from your part. And when you buy into that, I think the main thing is to buy into the process. I think those individuals realized that, everybody was a part. Whether you was a starter and, you treat them all equal, but I tell everybody you don't treat them all the same. You earn that respect, you know what I'm saying? And I thought we had some individuals like that was on the team that came out and showed the younger people and gave them an opportunity, and everybody played their part, whether you were a starter or whether you had to run down on special teams. Very important for our football program.
And Coach Richardson, one of the things, because after we got approval to be on the field for practice, during the fall camp, although we call it the fall camp, it's still pretty hot. Just watching you, how you had a piece of paper in hand or a card, and you didn't, rah, 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 a lot of screaming and hollering. You just move around, and it was kind of more of a, like a CEO, just moving around different parts of the practices, observing and making notes. Was that just the way you had always been, even before you got into coaching?
Well, I thought that was always part of the organization, the process you have to have. You have to have enough confidence in the people around you to be responsible for it. Everybody played a part in structurally, fundamentally of what we're going to do. I think part of our organization during the week is making sure that our players were prepared for Saturday afternoon. And that thing that, all the coaches played a part. So it wasn't just me. It was just, we sit down and we decided if you had an idea that we could improve what we were doing, I would sit down and we would listen during the week. So when you had made your contribution, but once we left those meetings and went to the field, everybody's on the same accord, all the coaches. It wasn't just, that's the way I wanted it. It's the way that we had decided that we were going to do in order to improve as a football team. And, you went around, and I think the biggest thing that I learned as the process went on, that, I couldn't be responsible for everything. And those were the offense and defensive coordinators that you had to have respect in what you were doing. And they had assistant coaches that put requirements on them to making sure that everybody was headed in the same direction.
Very interesting and telling, but important. Visiting with Coach Pete Richardson, former football coach at Southern University. I call you Coach the legendary. It's so many things, and I'm trying to kind of condense it as far as the time. Because I remember one time, as I'm thinking right now, coming, coaching at Winston-Salem and then coming to Baton Rouge. I remember you talking to the reporters, and they were like, "Coach, it's really hot," but you made a special emphasis in humidity. Coach, even now, have you adjusted to the humidity of Baton Rouge?
Well, I don't think you ever get adjusted to that because it's always changing. But, it was better as far as game preparations because at least the weather, you couldn't use that as an excuse. And as you have to play in it, you have to get out there and practice. And I think that was the philosophy we had. I think that the key is that they're making sure that you just don't wear them out. I think that, football is based on fundamentals. And the first part of that is the fun part of it and making sure that they understand that it can be fun also. But it's no fun when you walk off that field Saturday after the game is over and you've lost. The only fun part that you have about a couple hours after the game is over and you didn't won and everybody's having fun. Now you got to get refocused and get ready for the next game because your job is making sure that the people that your fan support that's following you is making sure that they'll come as they understand that your team is going to be fundamentally sound and they get a chance to brag about their reputation at Southern University.
Visit with Coach Pete Richardson, former football coach at Southern University. Coach, that we're still kind of in season one, and a couple of firsts. You won the first game in convincing fashion, you and your staff and the players. Then you moved down to the Alcorn State game. I've already heard of listeners listening in now. He wanted to know your success against Alcorn State at that time. But if I remember that first game, and I made a note, 47-31, Steve McNair. The story goes in preparation that week in the film room, you showed where Coach Steve McNair came in the game before against Alabama State, I believe it was, with 2 minutes left. He was maybe injured and came in and they won football game. And then you left out of the session with the players, and they were able to see the importance of that game. But that game with Alcorn State, Alcorn had won, I believe, 8 in a row prior to that game, and then, Coach, you were able to come out with a 47-31 victory over then the late, great Steve McNair. Was that another turning point, or it was just another game on the schedule where you guys were successful?
Well, I think it was another turning point in your program because it was something that Southern University had a limited experience with Alcorn. And I think when you go against a quarterback like Steve McNair, he was an outstanding individual. He was an outstanding player, and if he was sound, you knew that he was going to be competitive, and it was going to be tough to curtail him over a period of time. So during the meetings during the week, we knew we had to score some points because he was going to score some points. In order to combat that, our players had to believe in 60 minutes of football. Now, we were going to do that, and it was going to come down to that. In other words, they was going to score some points, but we couldn't just fold when they scored a touchdown. We had to go back and offensively or defensively. We had to do preparations, score points, and defensively. We knew we wasn't going to stop him completely, but we had to limit his takes on the field, and we had to control the ball.
And, Coach, that crowd was electric. To this day, that man, it may have been another home game, but you remember that crowd? It was just outstanding. I want to say Ward Dunn and Charlie Ward were on the sideline, and of course Steve McNair, Southern Kenyatta Sparks, a kickoff return. Shiloh with an interception, a big defensive tackle. When you talked earlier about preparation and organization and even special teams, you were able to get points in many facets for that ball game.
Well, I think over a period throughout the game is completed, it consists of offense and defense and special teams. Therefore, just if you're on special teams and your job is to run down on kickoff, that's just as important as being an offensive player or start offensively. You're going to have certain individuals on the team that's going to be, quote unquote, just going to be the stars of the team. But you also, those stars of the team got to make those individuals that are only going to run down on the kickoff, make them feel that they're just as valuable if we're going to be successful, in that program, and eventually if you get your opportunity to go out there and play, then you're going to be able to step up and make a positive contribution what we're trying to do.
And then Coach Richardson, that season, again, that first season, then the Bayou Classic. You've seen it on television. Now it's game week, and you're going up against the legendary Coach Robinson and his staff, you and your staff, your players, and you're able to be successful in that ball game. And, we've heard the stats, undefeated against the legendary Coach Robinson, but describe the feeling of that first Bayou Classic you coached in after seeing it on television, but now being up close and really personal.
Well, it was a thing that you were, you can say you play one game at a time, but you knew in the back of your mind the ultimate goal for Southern University is to beat Grambling, and I think that's what the individuals are planning for, especially the fan base. That's the only thing they wanted to talk about. And then you knew in the back of your mind that's the only thing basically that the players want to talk about. But I think that you have to get them to be consistent one game at a time and to build with that. And they have to understand that, throughout the year that all those games are important because those are fundamental games that you learn from. You put yourself in a position to make plays on offense and defense, and you're going to have to play against Grambling. Historically, they had an outstanding football team, and it's going to take 60 minutes in order to beat them. But also, it's going to take all three phases of what you're trying to do to beat them, and they have to understand the importance of going in there and play for a full 60 minutes because it may take a 50 to 49 game. But the bottom line is that you got to come out on top, and I think the premise that I try to use at Southern University, me and the coaches, that we want the players to get you through the year. And the big games like that, that was my responsibility to making sure that we pulled the strength of what we could do against that game individually that we hadn't done or kept a few things out that we knew that we were going to try in that game so that if a 60-minute game involved, and you also had some things that in the toolbox that you could pull out that the players believed in, and then you could do.
Coach got to go to that old toolbox. It's always important in the toolbox. Coach, let me ask you about this, and we've had a lot of discussion over the years. That 1994 team, some have said on paper that would have been, and I say would have been, the most outstanding team that you coached. But Andre Davis gets injured, and you end up being 6-5. But 5 of those losses, if I'm remembering correctly, were by 11 points. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that 1994 team?
Yeah, I think starting off the year, we had high expectations. And for some strange reason, it seemed like every time you look around, we're losing one of our key players. And in certain positions, we really didn't have a whole lot of depth. So now you had to bring a young player in, and a lot of times the young players on our team usually had to waited maybe a year or 2 years in order to be able to play, to have the confidence that we needed to get them out there, especially in some of those big games, because those are very emotional games, and we didn't have the depth at certain positions, and players were starting to get hurt. But we had to play what we had, and a lot of times they made some mistakes, but then it was a learning process, and hopefully that you can improve after each one of them. But the main thing you want them to do is to have the confidence that we don't keep making the same mistakes. And we made some critical mistakes and lost some tight football games, and that's the way it ended up. And also it gave them the confidence to come back for next year, because the type of attitude that they have and the confidence that they had in our football team.
Coach, I want to play a little word association. I'm gonna mention a team, and tell me what's the first thing that comes to your mind. Jackson State, when you coach against those teams.
Very competitive.
Mm-hmm. And boy, I can tell the story quickly. Pre-game, Jackson State at that time, they like to intimidate opposing players doing, when they're on their end of the field and you're on your end of the field, and they were yelling, and it looked like they said something that somebody didn't like, and then next thing I know, Coach Richardson, which is a mild-mannered, quiet guy, it looks like they had got you animated.
Well, I think that, it was a process of you come out in pregame warm-ups and you got your half of the field and they have theirs, and then all of a sudden they come and they just ran through your drills. Okay. And, they tried to use that intimidation game. You see what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
And from that aspect that, if you're competitive athletes and you understand the guidelines and of pregame warm-ups and the areas that you're responsible for, and you try to stay out the other guy's area. But now when you come and just try to ramrod someone, they really did us a favor, because now that gave me an opportunity to get on our football team. If they're not going to respect you from that aspect, now it's time for you to come out and show them what you can do. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. And those games were just classic. I mean, the crowd, atmosphere, all you can say, it was very electric. And you had some success against Jackson State. FAMU. I thought FAMU always was one of the lead teams that we had to play. And I think playing them, especially from their conference, because they were always up and they were well coached, and they were always either going to win the championship or they're going to be very competitive. I knew coming out of that football game when we played FAM what type of team that we had. If they could go, because I knew they had some outstanding athletes and they were well coached at FAM University, and we were going to go against them. I tried to schedule them early in the year so we could go against the best one of the teams in MEAC. And if we fared well against them, then that was just a guideline that I could focus on our football team and bring back to our conference and go against the Jackson States and then the Alcorns and the Grammars. And I knew it was going to be very competitive. Coach, were there any teams during your tenure coaching that maybe didn't have the best of record, but boy, they would fight Southern University really hard?
Well, I think every time we play, well, you mentioned Prairie View. I think that, once we came the first year and we established the guidelines of Southern University was going to be very competitive and going to be competing for the championship, I think each game we stayed, especially with some of the lesser teams that we played, because I knew they knew that was going to be the highlight of their season. Because when we came to play a Prairie View or Mississippi Valley, that it was going to be a big game for those teams, especially at third place, because we had the Jaguar Nation, and they was going to follow us regardless of where we went. And we go play Mississippi Valley, and the place would be sold out. And that would probably be the biggest gate of the year, and they would get fired up, and knowing that going into a place that usually don't have maybe 5,000 or 6,000 people, and then all of a sudden you got 15,000 that bring in, and maybe 13,000 of them are SU fan base that they're going to get fired up for playing, and you have to be ready to go.
Yeah, I understand that. We're visiting a few more minutes with legendary Coach Pete Richardson from Southern University. Coach, a listener says, good morning. Has Coach done any football consulting during his retirement? And he also said, tell Coach, thank you for what you done for college football and Southern University.
Well, I get around. I did some when I first got out for 4 or 5 years, and of course, consulting with a lot of the ex-players that I had, not as just now head coaches, in order to expertise. But for my expertise, it's hard to bring in an individual from the outside that really don't understand exactly what that coach has to work with. You can bring in a scheme, and the scheme, you may be completely different from what they're trying to do, and to tell him what he had to do, yet he's got an offensive tackle that can't block nobody. You see what I'm saying? So he's doing the best thing that he can do to the offense and defense that he's trying to do. So, what you try to do is ask the people what they want to try to improve, because I can go in and say what was successful we had at Southern University, and of course we had some outstanding football players, but it's hard to go into some of the lesser programs when they got first of all, a lot of young players that they have to learn how to play, and a lot of them are really a year or two behind as far as physically developing and mentally learning what you have to do, and hopefully that they can build their confidence up and into what you want them to. But my thing from them is ask the head coaches what you want me to talk to your team about, because I have certain ideals, and my ideals may be completely different from what he's trying to do offensively and defensively. Like I say, if you want me to talk about scheme-wise, if you want me to talk about player development, if you want me to talk about recruiting, that's what I wanted to do, what you had to work with, because if you want to talk about recruiting and yet your whole recruiting budget is $1,000 now, you have to be limited to what you're trying to prepare this individual to do.
Right. Yes, that was an interesting question. Thanks, Willard, for that question. And Coach, of course, 2009 separation from Southern University, and I would think if it was me in that position, it would be tough. You've given a lot of years to that institution, so I know the feelings were like not good feelings. But now, Pete Richardson Classic, and if everything works out, FAMU coming this year for the Pete Richardson Classic. But your relationship with Southern University now, it's still, or is it back on good standings?
Well, anytime you put so many years into a program and all of a sudden they came and wanted to go in a different direction and didn't really understand why the program turned around the way it did because of injuries, or you could say player development, or losing some coaches. But it had to be an infilling for you, because he took me and my assistant coaches took a program that was very inconsistent and put it into one of the top programs in HBCs. And I think that not only that, but were real respected throughout the country. Then all of a sudden they wanted to go in a different direction. You have to have a bitter taste in your mouth. Mm-hmm. But I think that that situation has gradually changed now, especially with the athletic director. It's all started back with him, Coach Banks being there, and the type of relationship that we had. Because I remember when he first came and started working in basketball with Job, and then we should sit down and talk a great deal, and he understood that, and of exactly what had happened, and he tried to mend the lines of communication with that, and it's gradually getting back to. I think that it's an outstanding program because of him, and I'll do anything I can in order to respect his aspects of what he's trying to do, and of course, also regardless of what type of feelings that I have, it was all involved with the players, and I think the players earned that those championships, and it meant a great deal to them. So it had to, and I don't want to disrespect them, and hopefully that I don't want them to disrespect them. What happened to me, to be proud of Southern University.
But the Pete Richardson Football Classic now is part of the football season, and we'll just have to see, Coach, if FAMU will get a chance. Boy, Coach, that even brings up an old football player's chance to say he would love to see that. But in light of what's going on, we'll just have to see. But as far as now, Coach Richardson in retirement, I guess I'm intrigued by, I just thought maybe you would, move away, but you stayed in Baton Rouge, and it's your home, and I'm glad that you and your family decided to stay here. Was it because of the relationships that you developed that you guys decided just to make Baton Rouge and Louisiana your home?
Well, I think it's over a period of time that you put in, and the relationships that you develop with the people, and I think that I tried to develop that relationship with the fan base, and you get a chance to know them over a period of time, and also you spend this much time that I had in Southern University, and you develop that relationships, and this is your home now. So things didn't work out with Southern University at first, but still, I have a lot of people that you had contact with, and you stay. I live here, and I think that means a great deal to me in order to be able to say that I'm still a supporter of Southern University, and hopefully I can do whatever I can for that school, and extend anything that I can to help them out.
Well, Coach Richardson, it has been a pleasure just visiting with you on today's show. Oh, before I let you go, Fernandez Griffin, I know you had some health issues. How's he doing?
Well, I think that he's had some health issues, and he's gradually getting back, and I think I talked to him consistently, and he's getting a little bigger, a little stronger now, and he's able to, hopefully that he can get over it. And I think that he will be proud to have him because he meant a great deal to Southern University also, especially some of the athletes on the team, because at first they didn't really understand what he was trying to do for them, because he was the one that trailed them to go into class and make sure that they went to class and checked on them, and they thought that he was the disciplinarian as far as getting them there. But they understand now that if he enforced them a lot of times to do some things, especially of going to class and doing the work, that they really appreciate it now, because a lot of them are doing well as a developer, graduating from Southern University and doing speaking well for them and their families. And I tell him that you asked about him, and I think he'll really appreciate that.
Well, yeah, I felt the wrath of Fernandez a couple of times, and that's not a good feeling. Because if he had something to say, he would tell you. And got chased off the practice field a couple of times. But hey, Fernandez Griffin, he was who I thought he was. He meant a lot to the program. Coach, let's talk in the future pretty soon, hopefully, and maybe if football season is going to be back, we'll get you on and pick your brain and consult about some of the games going on.
Okay, then. Hopefully that we can get the season started back. If we can get through this virus thing, and then it's going to be a challenging year for football. Because whenever they come back, especially from the programs that don't have to send the athletes home now, it's going be a large part of what type of commitment you have to your athletes and what type of culture they have, because it's going to be on them now. And coming back, it's going to be a level playing field. It's not like that one program has a little bit more than the other one. And now it depends on individually what type of commitments that those athletes have towards the athletic programs, and also the commitment they have at the university of being the best they can be.
Yeah, Coach Richardson, I kind of worry, big guy myself. I worry about those big linemen. They've got to make sure they're training on their own. And I think as a coach, you would prefer in the perfect setting to have those big guys in summer school so you can keep them around.
You like to keep them around because, a lot of times, they, as far as until they mature and understand what you're trying to do for them, physical activity and running and conditioning, that it's a learning process for them, especially the ones that you're going to be able to get on our level, starting off with. And now it's a maturing process of they have to see the older individuals that's been in your program for 2 or 3 years to see how those individuals have developed. And a lot of them started off the same way they did. They didn't like to run. They didn't like to lift. They didn't like to condition. They didn't like to get up in the morning. They didn't like to go to class. And then over a period of 3 or 4 years, they realized what you were trying to do for them. And it's going to take that aspect from a lot of them are, conditioning wise, are going to be 15 to 20 pounds overweight. That I got, since you're not disciplined enough to do it, either the weight, strength, and conditioning coach, or realizing that 320 is not an effective player when you need to be about 280. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to take some discipline and a learning process from their aspect. But once they get it and understand what you're trying to do, hopefully that they can develop and be outstanding athletes and make positive contributions in your program.
Well, Coach Richardson, appreciate the time. Take care of yourself and be safe, and we'll talk with you.
Okay, you take care of yourself, and good luck, and hopefully the year gets started.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, Coach. Have a great weekend.
You. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
That was legendary coach, Coach Pete Richardson, and, reminiscing, going back in time, and, SWAC championship. That does my heart good, Dr. Prince. I came close as the fan part of me comes out. Came close 2 years in a row, and I could have shared a funny moment. How you say bloopers? setting up the interview with Coach Richardson. Boy, he was amazed. But remember early on in the interview, Alcorn had won 8 in a row.
Yeah,
against Southern up to that point.
I heard that.
Then you've got McNair coming in, the icon. And that crowd was just electric. I'm telling you, it was electric. Charlie Ward.
Why is the song
Ward done on the sideline?
Minnie Rippleton, Back Down Memory Lane, floating in my head right now?
Oh, well. Come on, Coach Odoms, you're close. You're close. On a serious note, you don't know what's going to happen with the 2020 season, to be honest with you. And I'm cautiously optimistic because this situation is something.
Well,
and
they say plan for the worst and expect the best, And with that being said, if we just look at it from a logical point of view, if we remove all emotions, we're 12 to 18 months out from a vaccination.
Mm-hmm.
We're on lockdown. Even in the most optimistic situation.
Well, except Mississippi, but go ahead. That governor.
Yeah, well,
okay. I'm gonna keep it clean. It's not a political show, but you know how that is.
Right, absolutely. But so even when you look at that from a logical standpoint, best case scenario, maybe 2021, maybe, to make sure that to say that there's a clearance and for there to actually be a clearance, because the question is, Okay, let's say they make the lift July 1st, and we still got to practice this 6-foot social buffer. Then you got to limit who can come into a stadium, how they come into a stadium. Would you even be willing for your son or daughter to go out there and play under those conditions, even though it's quote unquote safe to go back to normality? So there are a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, a lot of people may not go for that. Parents, players. So, with that being said, it is going to be very interesting to see. You know, if 2021 is the next season, you know, that's the way it's going to be, because you've got to be able to have a safe environment and where everybody's comfortable.
Right, because the experts, the health experts, not the sports experts, the health experts are saying even with the return of normality, and I'm using quotations with that, they're saying it would be high risk of playing any sport with the same shared ball. And I thought about that. What sport do you play that doesn't have the same shared ball?
Well, put it in your mind that 2021 will be the year to come back. Maybe. Wow.
Yeah.
On that note, we'll take a time out. Let's call up Coach Pettaway. I hope he didn't run away because it's a little late, but we'll talk with him next. Hopefully, Coach Van Pettaway, the Coles Brown Show basketball analyst, and then following Coach Pettaway, it'll be Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network, and I'm going to kind of get Coach Pettaway's perspective about the situations with the basketball coaches. And then we'll talk to Charles Edmond about the Alcorn situation. I put the information out there, and you guys can dialogue about it. I'll give my opinion. But it has been an interesting topic. And then also, if time permits, I'll pull up the article about NCAA and economically giving back less this year because of no NCAA basketball tournament, which is a big moneymaker. I'll be back. You're listening to the Coles Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Hello, this is Lonzo Hardy Jr., President of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999, at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who have played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or Luncheon, where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Clark Wagon Master Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at SWAC universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the SWAC Alumni Association or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to SWAC Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is SWACalumniassociation@yahoo.com.
Serving the community through faith and athletics. The Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Welcome back to hour number 2, 11:04 Central Standard Time. the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. I love talking to one legendary coach, Coach Pete Richardson, and our number one now legendary coach, Coach Van Pettaway, the Carlos Brown Show's basketball analyst. Coach, good morning to you. Hopefully you're safe and sound, and you and your family. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Carlos and everybody. Yes, we are safe. Thank you for that. We believe in staying our distance. So the best way to keep your distance, stay in your own house. And so that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, and you know what? I need some distance in a lighter note away from that first guy you talked to, Brother Dr. Prince, because I want to come out and touch me sometimes.
You see, man, you started already, man, and you always cut up.
In a good way.
Hey, listen, fellas, no touching right now.
Neutral corners.
Neutral
corners.
Yeah, listen, we got to save that affection for later on after this virus is lifted.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, as my daddy would say, Coach, tell him to keep his mouth off of me, man.
Yep.
It's in love, Brother Prince. It's in love.
Man, if this is love, I sure hate your hate.
Wouldn't want to see that. Would not want to see it.
Want to see it, man.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I remember last week I thought about you once again, Coach Pettaway, as I was trying to decide, should I talk about a 1-3-1 zone, 2-3, and then I thought about, well, Coach Pettaway, Alabama A&M, it was like they did a lot of trapping and full court pressure. But also I thought about asking you last week about the situation at Alcorn State, and some of the alums had, sent me text messages saying they were concerned about the basketball program. Now, I'm sure you've heard the news. Alcorn State.
Unfortunately, yes, I have. They made a change, and then, of course, down at Alabama State, Coach Jackson stepped down. And, in basketball or in coaching, when a coach resigns, a lot of times that's the nice way of saying he's forced out. I'm just being honest with it. That what they do is they give you an opportunity to either resign or get fired. They figure you can get a job if you were not fired from your last job. So a lot of times coaches will go ahead and resign. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened at Alabama State, because I have not talked to Coach Jackson. I did text him once I heard that he had stepped down. I did text him and what I was doing is congratulating him on being such a positive influence for basketball, not only as a player, but also as a coach, because he brought a lot to the SWAC. When you talk about a young man who came into the SWAC as a player, ended up being the MVP player of the year, and then turn around and coached at his alma mater and won a couple of championships. I think he did an outstanding job. And then when it comes to Robinson down at Alcorn State, he's from Alabama also, and he's one of the young men that we recruited at Alabama A&M. So I know him personally, and it's just sad, especially during this time. Now you're already dealing with the virus. Now you're without a job, so that brings extra stress. And then in these times, you're not going to have the normal interview process. With these coaches looking for jobs now, so you can't go and do that in-person thing, and it's just going to be tough. This is a tough situation. And both schools now, those are great programs because when you look at the makeup, like at Alabama State, they got the facility. They only had 3 seniors on that team, but now they did lose their top 2 scorers and leading rebounder. And at Alcorn, I think they ended up with maybe 6 seniors. They lost 3 of their top scorers. 3 of their top 4 scorers are gone off of that team as seniors. So for somebody to get that job now, these jobs, it's going to be tough because you can't do the normal recruiting. And, you may be setting the program back another couple of years because of the virus, not because of coaching. You can't get in there and do what you need to do. You don't have access to the kids over the summer. They're going to have new coaches for these programs. And if they even do any basketball, you won't see them kids until the fall. But I'm one of the people that thinks that there's a good chance there will not be any fall sports. I'm being honest because, we've never seen this type of epidemic before. So we don't know how long this thing is going to last. We don't know how long it's going to take for us to fully recover. And then even when they say it's safe, how many people are going to still be apprehensive about that? I will be apprehensive about going back to work. I'll be apprehensive of being around my players, and some of them are going to feel the same way. Yeah. So this is going to be a real wait and see thing. But me personally, I think this virus is going to affect some of the fall sports and basketball, football. You think about this. This time of the year, you close your school year. Kids are coming off of spring break. In basketball, you got your individual workouts going on. You got recruits coming in. You got you doing all of this stuff, right? Now, I'm sorry, I'm 1 week. I'm 1 week ahead because this would still be the week of leading up to the Final Four. I'm sorry, but you still got your phone calls going, the recruiting process going on, and then after the Final Four, you got your individual workouts in that you're doing, and then football. Look at all of the football programs that are losing spring practice. That's very important for football. Then if you're not going to have these kids for the summer, how are you going to control their eating habits? How are you going to help them academically? How are you going to help them physically when they're not on your campus? Because now you got to rely on a kid and his own motivation, his own drive to do the right thing. Because in order for them to be productive for you, if you can play next fall, they got to put the work in. And in some cases, how can they do that? They can't do it. There's only so many things they can do in their house. All public places are closed. You don't have the gyms. You don't have that stuff at your disposal now. But at the same time, because we're in athletics, we're talking about this. But the most important thing is, we got people losing their lives. We got people getting sick. So, but because it has been our profession to be in athletics, we are talking about the athletic side. But on that other side, men, we got people losing their lives with this disease. And it's going to end up being people we know, people we don't know. And I guess the unknown is hurting all of us. Well, and I'm sorry for ranting. I'm sorry.
No. You don't have to be sorry because Coach Lee Richardson kind of brought up the fact. Dr. Prince, we were kind of discussing, and our number one. I just said cautiously optimistic, but trying to be cute. Maybe they should just go ahead and for the fall volleyball and football and basketball, maybe just 2021.
Right. Do like the Olympics. Yeah, put it off a year. Mm-hmm. Because the athletes, they still got to recover. Because you think about this now. If they lift this ban and you bring them kids back and they have not been training during this time, you're going to get kids hurt. Mm-hmm. They're going to do things to their bodies that's going to hurt them. And some of those hurts could affect them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, true. And
so they got a lot of stuff to look at. They have a lot of things that they got to look at before that decision is made, when to lift this thing and when to start athletics up again.
And Coach, on a lighter note, if I can,
go ahead.
I had one listener, and I'm just gonna say he said, well, maybe Coach Pettaway will come out of retirement and come coach at this particular school.
Well, I never
like it's all in the timing, but I think he's retired. But.
Yeah. I'm right now. I'm happy. I'll never say never, but I don't want to visit anybody or anyone during this time. So I know that would eliminate me right now. But those are good jobs. Alcorn is probably going to be the toughest. And that's only because of the location. It's tough to recruit at Alcorn. And that's not disparate. What I'm saying is, to me, when Coach Whitney was successful, it's because he was bringing those kids in from Mississippi. He had homegrown talent that he used that made that program successful. Because number one, those people were accustomed to Alcorn. You go up you go up on the East Coast or up Midwest, and you bring kids down to visit Alcorn. You're not gonna get a lot of those people. Because they don't want to be that isolated. See, the isolation, I think, hurts Alcorn in some respects. But here's the thing. If you ever get a kid that you like, you know you got a good one because they are isolated from some of the things that are going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, Coach, following Southern going up there 2 years in a row, oh, my goodness. And so you understand if I didn't go for a while to Alcorn State, and twice in 1 year championship, and come out on the losing side, you can.
Well, they got some beautiful people down there. Their fans are passionate.
Beautiful campus.
Right, we had some great games down there from back to the Dave Whitney days when Coach Whitney was there. I mean that fan base is passionate about their sports. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that has to do with the isolation. So they fall in love and they do everything. Listen, Alcorn, okay, they so isolated. Where do you think I spent one of my weekends this fall? At Alcorn. I went down, we took the RV down and we spent a weekend down there when A&M went down to play Alcorn in November.
Wow.
So I got a chance to.
A week?
Yeah, weekend, not week, not week. Weekend. Yeah, they have a great RV spot down there, park down there on campus, and we had an opportunity to go down and for that game. Great game. Game ended in last play of the game. A&M lost the East Division crown right there at the last minute. Last play, rather. It's
scenic. What's the saying? They say where the water tastes a little bit better, the grass is a little bit greener. It's outstanding, and hopefully when the time comes, they'll be able to place someone in that position or positions to bring it back. Because also what they have shared with me, some Alcorn alums, they want the athletic programs to be known for more than just football.
Right, but okay, but here's the thing though now. That is great to want that. It's all well and good for the fans to want that. But have they actually looked to see what they're doing to make the other programs as successful as football? In other words, what support do they have? Not only financially and all the way around. I think last week I told you it takes more than just my basketball staff or a staff on an athletic team for a team to be successful. It's all the other things, from the dormitories to the admissions process to all of that. All that has to come in place. So my question is, what is being done? What can you show me or anybody else that wants to take those jobs down there for the men and women's program? What can you show them that the support is there? Can you show them the scholarships? Can you the things that you need to be successful? Can the school and administration show future coaches that all these things are in place? Now, one of the people that I respect a lot was Larry Smith. He was one of their own, and he came back, and he couldn't make that program successful. Okay, now with Larry and all the people he knows, well, that's a bell going off. Now that's an alarm going off. Because he knows the game. He knows the game of basketball, and I promise you, to me it's an easy fix. They just got to stop hoarding all of the guarantee money, and by that, this is what I'm saying now. You're making your teams go out and play those games. Put some of that money back into the program, so that your program can be like football. Football is going to get the money. I guarantee you, football gets all the outside donations. They get it, but it's not for the other sports. So if you want your basketball team to be on par, the game guarantees, that's money that's not in your budget. Just let them have some of that, enough of that, so that they can be successful. You got to have enough money to recruit with. You got to have, as a coach, let me tell you one of the first things I want to know from them. All right, are we giving our kids their Pell Grant money back? Because that's their money. You know, we saying that we on scholarship. You say we on scholarship, so let's pay for their education. If they qualify for Pell Grant, that money should go in their pocket. Now, that's one of the incentives I can offer a parent when I walk in their house. Talk about come and play for me at Alcorn. Well, Mama, this is what we're going to do. If he qualifies for financial aid, he's going to get this $3,000 the first semester, $3,000 second semester. That's to help him with his expenses while he's down there on the reservation. Okay, is that in place for those kids down there? Okay, I can tell him, well, Mama, he's going to be able to come home on the breaks. All right, are they making? Do they have arrangements made where these kids can get home back and forth? So to see, there are a lot of things that come into play when you talk about having a successful program, and then with you being isolated, you better offer something. You better offer something more than talking about they get a good education. Yeah, he can get a good education anywhere he goes. Right. That's what I'm saying. So tell me what's special about our place. This is what we're doing to help our athletes, our basketball players. This is why you need to come play for me. I'm just putting myself in this situation. I am a successful coach. I got the record. But for this school, this is what we do for these kids to make them successful. These are the study hall hours. They don't have to go to study hall between 8 and 5 because we got tutors that are on campus after 5 o'clock. You know, it's got to be something. Huh?
Coach, it sounds like you're consulting already.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's my job.
Hey, I love point well taken. I can't say anything.
Yeah, I love basketball, and this is in my blood. I'm still a part of it. I'm still on the NCAA Ethics Commission for basketball. You know, we still want to see the game played and done the right way. And then I'm more concerned, and I guess that's the reason why I'm still on the committee, because I tried to get off when I retired, when I came out, but they said, no, stay on, because I'm the voice for the small people. Because what happens in the SWAC and the MEAC is different than what happens in the Big Ten and the SEC. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, Coach, you don't know how refreshing it is to hear you speak on what you speak. And when I do it, they say I'm fussing, but when you do it, it's the gospel, and I appreciate that. Could you bring to light on just recruiting budgets? And I know they vary from all over the place, but compared to what is available to what would be ideal, what would be a good recruiting budget? And we'll just keep it in the sport of basketball, and how would you be creative in going about recruiting in today's time?
Well, I think in a budget, if you're not putting aside between $50,000 and $100,000 for recruiting in basketball, you're not putting a dent in it at all. You got to. And this is the reason why. Because if you got your full staff, it starts with the staff. Do you have a full staff? So if you got 3 or 4 coaches going out, they got to be able to go out without spending money out of their own pockets, taking it out of their households, right? Now, excuse me, if we try to bring in a recruit, your visits are based on that kid. If he's worth his grain of salt, that means he's got other schools recruiting in too. So when there's an opening for that kid to come to your school, you're not going to get a 2 weeks notice where you can get a cheap ticket. That's just a fact of life in athletics. Yeah, you want to plan it. Yeah, I want to plan ahead and try to see if I can, 2 months ahead, to see if I can get this kid to visit on this weekend. But that could change. Now, if it changes, does my administration already have the money in place for me to go ahead and pay for a ticket? I don't want to do this on every recruit, but we got to get this kid in here if we want to sign him. And I think, to me, you got to show parents when it comes to recruiting that you're gonna. I tell them this. This is part of my recruiting spiel. You're gonna send me a boy, and if he stays with me, I'm gonna send you a man back home. I'm gonna send you somebody that's gonna be able to go out in society and function and be productive in society. And that's our goal. We as coaches, we're teachers. We're supposed to be role models. We're supposed to be helping these young men and women to go out and be successful in life in whatever field they decide to go in. And in order for us to do that, we need help from our own campuses, from our own departments, from your athletic director all the way up to the president. We all have to be one. We got to be on the same page. And if we're on the same page, if you're on the same page, that program is going to be successful. And if you're not, it's going to be chaos. Every 3 or 4 years, or 5 or 6 years, however long it's going to take, we're going to be looking for somebody else because our directions are not the same. We're not headed in the same direction. And see, this is the thing that people have to look at, especially HBCUs in the MEAC and in the SWAC. When we are the ones that are raising the money through our basketball programs, we're not going to have these great winning seasons. We're not going to have these great records because you're going up against the giant. You're going up against Goliath to bring the money back. Goliath's not going to give you the money and let you win the game. Every now and then you're gonna get lucky and you're gonna win one of those games. So when we finish our non-conference schedule, we owing something. Most of the time, double-digit losses already. Now that automatically tells you, in order for you to have a winning season, you got to almost win the SWAC just to have a winning season.
And almost undefeated in the conference.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And so, see, it's tough in basketball because we are using our teams to fundraise. When I was a part of this, I really thought that the fundraising was left up to the athletic director and to our development office. Mm-hmm. I thought there were people in place for that, not using the coach. Now I'm gonna use a word that Coach Job used to use. Now I think everybody already knows this. He's prostituting those kids.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Those were his words. Now he said, "Man, we prostituting these kids, man. When we make them do this."
Yeah, just call it. I say athletic prostitution.
Right, and that's exactly what's happening. So, but I think what's happening, we're slowly seeing the light, and by that I'm gonna say, your commissioner's already said that they're looking at this thing differently now. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want us going out. And I keep saying us. I'm a part of the SWAC. Okay, he does not want the teams going out playing all of those games against the Tier 1 teams because it brings down the power rating of the SWAC. He's trying to increase the power rating of the SWAC so you don't get that play-in game. Because now I would have loved to have seen our tournament play out because I personally wanted to see where would they have put Prairie View. Would Prairie View been part of the first four? Or would Prairie View been a 16 seed? So you got to move up. We got to get off that 16 seed. You got to get off the play-in game. And the plan that the commissioner has is going to help with that. It's going to help. But it's got to come from these presidents in the SWAC. They got to see basketball other than a cash cow. That money's got to come from somewhere else. And see, we as coaches, we get scrutinized for everything. Let me ask you this. When was the last time we found out how many people failed in the English class? And how many times has a English instructor lost their job because their students did not win? Come on, tell me. When was the last time? And look, when was the last time we talked about it on ESPN on national radio? So see, we work for the same school, mm-hmm. but my job is to win games. Your job is to educate the kids. So if you're not educating the kids, why aren't you losing your job? And why isn't that not on the front page of the newspaper?
Coach Pettaway, and the social media says you're trending. What's trending now? Coach Pettaway. The truth. Hey.
And for these various reasons, that's probably why I never coach again. They're like, no, we don't need him. Don't bring him in here.
Oh,
well, that's all right. You
can coach my team. You can coach my team anytime.
I'm just being honest. The truth has to be told. Mm-hmm. The truth has to be told, and then I know we as fans, because I'm a fan too.
Yeah.
But I am not quick to jump on a team or a coach about failure when I don't know everything. So that's just like that parent that comes to the game and they get mad because their child didn't play. Well, mama, you was not at practice all week. You didn't see that your child didn't do nothing in practice, so they didn't deserve to be on the floor. So me sitting up in the stands, the team losing, I can't say, well, the coach need to go, because I don't know what the coach has been through. I don't know what the kids have been through.
Oh, Coach, you just reminded me of a story of a local high school coach. Parents had a meeting with him and wanted to know why little Johnny wasn't playing. And he said, little Johnny ain't playing because little Johnny's no good. And he said, the only reason little Johnny is even on the team is because it's high school and they wouldn't let me cut him because they believe in all kids. Do you know they came after their coach and he had to resign?
Wow. And that's terrible. That's terrible. That's terrible. And do you know that's half of the reason why some college coaches don't fool with walk-ons? You have more problems with walk-ons, a lot of programs do, than the kids on scholarship. Because when you let them walk on, the parents each year or each semester, they try to get a deeper grip into the program. A walk-on is not on scholarship. First thing they're going to want after playing time now. First they want the playing time. Now it's time for scholarship. And these are the things that we often face that the public knows nothing about. And then we have those same fans and parents that have those conversations with us as coaches. But in my initial meetings with my players, I try to meet with the players the first day back on campus, because you got to make sure that the new kids understand. I am your coach, not your parents. I don't coach parents. Your parents don't come in here and tell me how to coach my team and how to play you. I say, if you got that type of relationship with your parents, is it too late for you to leave now? Because that's not going to happen in my program. That's not going to happen. I don't listen to parents about playing time. I go a step further. I don't listen to alumni unless they have put some money down. In order to have a conversation with me about my program, I need to see your contribution to the university. If you have not contributed any money, you don't need to talk to me about what's going on with my program.
Is there a limit on the money? Is there a limit on the money, Coach?
No. I don't do that. But show me that you have tried to help by putting your money where your mouth is. See, don't let your mouth overtake your money. Put some money out there, then let's talk.
Coach, that's interesting, because I remember having a conversation with a Southern alumnus who said that policy should be also for board members.
It should be for board members.
Yeah. Okay, if you have to contribute, then you don't need to be on the board.
You should not. If you cannot bring something to the board or to that university, why are you there? That's your job. It's the board, the president, the athletic director, your research and development people. Those are the people that's responsible for money, bringing in the money. They should take it away from athletics in terms of giving the money back to the university. If you're going to make these kids play these games, give those programs money back so that they can have a viable program. Two of the most successful programs in this conference in basketball, Prairie View, Texas Southern, are two of the the most recent programs with a lot of success, it can be traced back to one thing and one person. Your current commissioner. When he was at Prairie View, he put things in place to help build that program. Part of that, using that guarantee money back into the program. Now he goes to Texas Southern, he does the same thing. Those are two elite programs because the kids may be going out there taking them butt whippings, but on the flip side, they're getting something back in return. The other programs, the kids are taking the butt whippings and getting nothing in return. But hate mail, stuff on the blog about how bad they are. Your coach needs to go, but they don't have what they need to be successful. And that's what we got to start looking at in our HBCUs.
Well, Coach, you added a hashtag master preacher.
Oh, man.
That's what your title been today. You're trending.
That's called bishop.
Bishop, pastor, preacher. Roll them all in one. Well, you have expressed yourself, and there's nothing else to be said. Can't follow up. I mean, literally. Now, next week, I guess you remember when we first came on, I talked about the 131 zone press and 2-3. Maybe I should just stick with your defensive philosophy.
No, we're gonna full court press. We gonna full court press, and we're gonna trap you because we want to make a change. Yeah. You on the offensive end, I'm on defense. I want to make a change. I want to change back the offense, and I need it right now.
Yeah. You know what? I'm just thinking. You're like the Coach Billy Joe at FAMU. His defense he put his defense out there to get the ball back to his prolific offense.
Yes.
Have y'all ever met?
Yes, we met. Yes.
Oh, yes. Now it makes sense now. Okay. Yeah. The show. Oh, boy, Billy Joe, my goodness.
Yes.
Well, on that note, Coach Petaway, my spirit is filled.
All right.
There's nothing else I can say. I'm sure the Alcorn alums, the ones who are listening, they hear you, but it's just not Alcorn alums. It's for everybody.
Right, that's what I said.
Including me, who's the guy who said he wasn't surprised that Alcorn made the move that they did just because I had some inside information. But I'll try to put the information out there. I'll give my opinion on it. But, sir, your opinion trumps the day. Oh my goodness!
Did you just cuss on there? Did you just cuss on there, man?
All right, I'm doing the cross and I'm sprinkling dust all around me. Forgive me, I have sinned. Well, Coach Petaway, you have a great weekend. We'll talk next Saturday.
Yeah, let's talk again next Saturday, fellas.
Yeah, and keeping on, do what you do best.
Keep on trucking, baby.
Hey, thanks, fellas. And you all have a blessed week, man, and everybody be safe.
You too. Same to you, and be safe.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, 11:38. I'm sure Charles may be mad. I may have everybody mad at me today, but that's all right.
That's all right.
To pay.
It's all right. Sometimes it's worth to let them be mad a little bit. That means they care. So it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. You're doing a heck of a job today, man. Heck of a job.
Just today? No.
Well, no. I mean, come on now. Crawl before you walk. Crawl before you walk.
I'm perfectly.
You always do a good job.
Perfectly imperfect. Yeah.
I always do a good job.
That's what I say. I can do better. I've got text messages. I can't keep up to date, folks. I'll try to answer you back maybe after the show. But appreciate you listening in.
You got to have the after party, huh? You got to have an after party show, man.
Yeah, be like the guy who, the DJ on Instagram live, and he was rolling.
That doesn't make sense to me, but it is what it is. I don't see the phenomenon of watching a guy spin records.
Oh, I like the music.
Yeah, I mean, liking the music, but to watch somebody spin records, I don't. Maybe I'm just old now. I don't know.
Oh, come on, Dr. Prince. I'm older than you.
Well, I'm just.
You gotta have that young spirit.
A young spirit.
Know that you're older, and you can only do so many things.
Well, I understand that, but for me, I'm just talking about for me. Maybe because I got many irons in the fire. But to watch a guy spin records for 16, 17, multiple hours, I don't know.
Well, when all else fails, I talk to my nephews and nieces. They keep up with a lot of stuff, and they keep me. I kind of look at myself as being old school and
yes,
a little bit of the new school.
No, I get that 1,000%. I get that 1,000%. But maybe I'm just an old talk show guy. And
you say tomatoes, some say tomatoes.
Yes. But it all gets said the same, doesn't it?
And speaking of that, I'm getting hungry.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to take a time out when I come back. Charles Edmond. Of course, I got to ask him about the Alcorn State situation and whatever else is going on. And then we'll wrap up this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show. So take a time out. We'll be right back after this quick timeout.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. I want to thank Coach Pete Richardson and our number one, the legend himself. The next legend, Coach Van Pettaway. He was just on, and the phone lines are still burning up here, literally. Now, another legend, Coach Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Charles, good morning to you, sir.
I don't know about the legend. How about this Charles Edmond? How about that?
Oh, well, I'll put that on you today. Legendary. You've been in the business a long time. Not long, but a long time. And we appreciate what you do. And Alcorn State, the basketball situation, I want to get your thoughts on all of what's been going on in the conference as far as the basketball coaches. We just had a interesting perspective from Coach Van Pettaway. What says Charles Edmond?
Well, in this profession, in this business, what we do, there are the highs and there are the lows. And the highs, obviously, when you win a championship and you're a part of that, that's the high watermark. But then when things don't go right, and this is a results-oriented business, and you see the low part of it, which is people that you've been close to, people that you've associated with, good family people, good husbands and wives, and unfortunately we see the other side of the business. which is unfortunately coaches get let go. And early this week, we had our women's coach, Courtney Pruitt, and our men's coach, Montez Robinson, relieved of their duties. I'll just say this from a personal perspective. I got a chance to know them. They were both neighbors of mine in the Vicksburg area for a short period of time. Got a chance to know them and their families, good family people. Got a chance to meet their parents and all that. So just from a personal perspective, it's always tough when they're not there. And obviously, this is just the nature of the business that they're in. As they say, coaches get hired to get fired, and that's just the way it goes, unfortunately. And did it catch me by surprise? With things being kind of quiet up until Monday, I thought maybe the improvement from last year to this year, even though it wasn't substantial. Our men's team went from 8th to 5th, and probably one win away. And thanks to Southern University, we could have been in 4th, could have had a home game against Jackson State in all likelihood, and who knows what might have happened. But it didn't happen that way. And on the women's side, obviously, we lost a lot of games down the stretch, and we kind of knew we would be on the road. But we won our last 2 and got a chance to beat a 5 seed. But all that being said, it's just unfortunate that this has happened, and we just look forward to seeing what happens next. I was hopeful that maybe that improvement would lead to maybe another bite at the apple, but it didn't happen that way. So that all being said, they're good people, good family, great individuals, and there's no doubt that they'll land better on the other side. I texted Coach Robinson's wife the other day, asked him how he was doing, and she said things will be okay. So, that's just a tough personable part of the business that you deal with, because you're on the buses with them, you're in practice with them, you're eating lunch with them, you're in the hotels with them, so you're around them a lot in their season. And to see, that they're not there, it's just the personal part that always tugs your heartstrings just a little bit.
And it's interesting that you say, what you say in your comments, because as you were talking, I've been in radio a good while now, transitioned to this network, and I know the feeling to get called into a meeting back in the day, and in this case, the envelope pushed to me, Charles, and you're gone, effective immediately. And you go through a whole lot of emotion at that point. And I had a co-host; he wanted to get up and attack the guy, but no, let's be professional. Don't do that. So all that to say this: you in this type of business, even in the coaching business, these things happen. I had the legendary Coach Lee Richardson on. He was let go after 2009. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. But how do you bounce back? In Coach Richardson's case, he had a couple other opportunities. I didn't get into all of that, but he decided, hey, that wasn't to his liking. Coach Robinson, to him specifically, and we shared a text message, you thought that he would make it. With first year, successful. And then I go back to, what's the young guy, Charles? Ronald Johnson from Monroe, Louisiana, that got injured.
Oh, Reginald Johnson.
Reginald Johnson. Yeah. I got Johnson right. It seems like after his injury, and it was a very severe injury, it just seems like that's the point I'll remember. Because, hey, Coach Robinson, 3 winning seasons out of 5, correct?
Yeah, I mean, in the first couple of years, remember, we were on probation where we couldn't go to the tournament. Mm-hmm. So, you look at all of that. He had some good years. We made it to the SWAC championship game one year. And so, you look at the highs, and then you look at the other side of it. And I just think that just the way the season ended, we lost to Southern. We turned around and beat the top 2 of the 3 top teams in the league in Texas Southern and Prairie View, sitting around waiting to see what Jackson was going to do. And I felt confident that if we had Jackson at our place instead of going to Jackson, it might have been a different result. We win that game. Of course, games were canceled after that. Who knows what might have happened? So, I mean, from that perspective, I mean, the woulda, coulda, shouldas, what might have been, you can always play it out in your mind. We had a bunch of injuries. I mean, teams go through that all the time. And I'm just speaking from the personal side. The professional side, obviously, you got to win games. And, people have texted me and have said, look, football has kind of set the standard at Alcorn now. Based on what football has done, everything else has to kind of come in line. And as I texted you earlier in the week, the standard, football is the standard. And the standard is the standard. That's what Mike Tomlin said a few years back. And that's kind of where we are at Alcorn now. Based on what football is doing, I think a lot of Alcornites, a lot of Alcorn fans and supporters expect the other sports just to kind of come up and be in that same realm that's competing for championships.
Yeah. I can understand the fan perspective. We've heard a couple of different perspectives over the week and even on today's show about, contracts not being renewed, let go, resign, but really forced out. And that leads me to the Alabama State men's situation. I mean, he's still going to be with the university, but he's just not going to be the head coach. Were you shocked by that?
Yes, but no. If I can elaborate a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, Alabama State lost like 9 in a row to end the season, and I think that really hurt Coach Jackson. And even though he had been there, he won championships, clearly what he had done, and that's why I think he's going to be working in another capacity at the university. He helped put Alabama State's program on the map. And I think just over a period of years, he was always one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league, and then he started slipping in the middle of the pack, and then kind of bottom tier. And this year was kind of a bottom tier. They really struggled down the stretch. And I think maybe, don't want to use the word stale, but I think that may be what's happened there. In fact, that maybe things have gotten a little stale there. And I think folks were kind of, clamoring for a change. You don't know whether he was forced out, whether, he had to get rid of some coaches and didn't want to do that. You always hear behind the scenes that, look, we're going to give you an opportunity to resign. If you don't want to do that, then we'll terminate you. You don't know if that's the case. I mean, there's a lot of little things that go on behind the scenes with something like that, but the way the release was worded, it seems like he may be still at the university in some other capacity. And we'll see. I think he's been there long enough, and he's built up enough cachet, if you will, to where he can do that. His wife as well. We don't know what's going to happen with Frida Jackson either. At least we haven't heard anything as of yet. So we'll see how that develops. But it was kind of a surprise in the sense that he had done so well, but then just to fall off the cliff so quickly. And I think this year, losing as many games as they lost down the stretch, I think that might have put it over the top where there was probably consensus that something had to be done.
Visiting with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Charles, a listener, Michael, says if he would have beaten JSU at least once, he would have his job. And Derek says, nobody's asking basketball to be football dominant, just be decent. And this was in capital letters there. Not bottom tier consistently. Well,
yeah, and clearly, we lost to Jackson State 3 times. And we all know, and Carlos, you know as well, when you lose to one of your rivals often, it does lead to things happening. And we all know, and I'm speaking of a football analogy, Southern and Alcorn. We all know how that's going right now. I mean, hey, I'm not saying it as a joke. I'm saying it in a serious fashion. I mean, if Auburn loses to Alabama 6 or 7 times in a row, Gus Malzahn's out. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it works. And I think in football, we all know what's going on there. 10 out of 11, and the heat is on off home right now. But I think obviously for us, Jackson State. I mean, there was some talk of Wayne Brent. Again, if we beat Southern, play at home, beat Jackson State, who knows? I mean, you don't know how that's going to go down. Down the stretch there. So I think in terms of winning championships, of course you want to do that, but we go from 8th place to 5th. Our women didn't make the tournament at all last year and go to 5th. We kind of played ourselves out of a home game, probably with 5 or 6 games left, because we just lost too many in a row there towards the second half of the season. But in terms of just on paper, there was some improvement. And our women have a pretty good recruiting class coming in. We got a 6'3" post that's supposed to be coming in. So we'll see how that transpires. But I just think that, and I'm always optimist, Carlos. I look at the glass half full. That maybe going from 8th to 5th, you build on that. You do some recruiting. Jackson's going to lose a little bit. Texas Southern, I mean, you're right there in the middle of the pack. Maybe you could get to 3rd. Somewhere in there, because clearly Prairie View, Southern, and Texas Southern are the top 3 teams right now. I mean, you could etch that in stone. Now 4, 5, 6. Where are you in that mix? And I was hopeful that maybe another year, another crack at it, we get to 4th, we get to 3rd, and then we're having another conversation.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because dialoguing, text messaging with Alcorn alum, and he brought the point. There's no in between in the Alcorn and Derek Horn situation. If you're going to extend both contracts, then, and you may be shocked that I'm going to say this, you can't do a 1-year deal. You either going to have to go full in, or cut bait. And you know how recruiting is. You give somebody a 1-year deal, and I'm not saying that that's what they would have offered. People can use that. You know how recruiting is. You come in and say, give me your young gentleman or young lady for 4 years where you may not be there. But I know, given the opportunity is one thing. So how do you feel about that? Because we got about 5 minutes left. Do you go all in, or you cut bait if you're Horn?
Well, obviously, I mean, he obviously the decision was made there. I mean,
he decided to cut bait.
Yeah, he decided to cut bait on that. It's kind of. I just look at the way it just went down. It was just, and I've spoken to Derek Horn recently, and he clearly, it was a tough decision for him. Spoke with him Thursday, as well as Coach McNair, and it was a tough decision, obviously. Especially, I think, during the times that we got going on right now, it's pretty silent in athletics. And so I think this happening is tough. I mean, the contract was up. So, when I was thinking about it, I know at Southern there's a year plus a school option. I was thinking, well, maybe they could get that. 1 year plus a school option. Where you do well, the school exercises the option. But I don't know if Alcorn does that. I've never heard of that deal. I mean, it's either you play it out, or you extend it a little bit, like Fred McNair. But it's clearly a tough situation. And I think for Derek Horn to have this happen, it was a tough decision for him. But again, it's just results oriented, and just didn't quite win enough. I mean, you lose 3 times to your number one rival. That's tough. That's a tough pill.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know about that. Well, a rivalry is back and forth. You win some, you lose some. You don't doggone lose 8, 9, 10 out of 11. I don't care who you are, and I'm not going to apologize no more about saying, well, I should feel a certain way. Shame on you, Carlos. If you think I'm trying to get rid of somebody, so be it. I don't care anymore. How about that? Because you know how I feel, and you'll feel the same doggone way. Okay, thanks for allowing me to vent that, Charles.
I didn't mean to stir up that pot, Carlos, because I know the kettle's boiling pretty good from between now and the time we play in September, October.
Because in that case, if it's just strictly on emotion, if there's a football season, hypothetically, what happens if Southern loses to Alcorn again in football at home? It could get nasty. You just never know. I'm glad I'm not a AD. It's a tough job. I understand that.
Well, if Southern loses to Alcorn again and still gets to Atlanta, will all be forgiven?
Yeah. At least for a while. At least for a while, but still, my motto's still the same. Even if it's 2021 or 2022. Atlanta or bust.
Yeah.
Just call me arrogant. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, one thing I can say about the basketball program right now, and someone asked me this, the assistant coaches are still on board. Someone has to keep the program going, and that's kind of typical. So it's good to see, at least on both sides, yes. Coach Payne and Coach Pittman, Coach Payne used to be the men's coach at Valley. He worked with Courtney Pruitt at Wiley College. So they're running the program, and then on the men's side, Coach Thompson and Coach Thomas are still there. Coach E. Davis are still running the program there. And my impression is that here soon we'll probably be naming some coaches at some point. At some point here soon, in the next 30 days or so.
Well, Charles, as we close this segment out, I thought about what you texted me a couple of weeks ago. I don't know about this college football season, NFL, volleyball season. I just don't know, Charles. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm starting to lean in the direction 2020 could be in jeopardy. Seriously.
Yeah, Kirk Herbstreit, I don't know, for those who know Kirk Herbstreit, the number one analyst, college football analyst on ESPN, he went public and said he doesn't think it's going to happen. Yeah. And if there's no college, then the NFL's on the clock, and I don't know. I mean, I'll say this, because college football is such the big money maker and there's so many moving parts, within the next 30 days, you're going to probably hear of whether or not football is going to be there or not. I don't think it's, I've heard July 1st. No, I don't think it's going to be that late. I think you're going to know in the next 30 days if this thing doesn't, if the curve isn't flattened or eliminated. I think college football and NFL is going to be impacted. The draft has already been impacted. We know GMs have already kind of expressed their displeasure of even having this with being locked out of their facilities or can't go to their facilities. You can't go see players. You can't go on. If this thing doesn't get better, and if you're a parent, Carlos, of a 17, 18-year-old with what's going on, are you willing to send your kid to get that program? No. Considering what's going on. I think there's going to be some anxiety if this thing doesn't clear up. And I'm hopeful, trust me, I'm an eternal optimist to a fault, but I've been telling people, my wife included, I don't know. She tends to believe that there's so much money in football, we're going to have some football. In the next 30 days, I think we're going to know for sure.
On that note, time will tell. Have a great weekend, Charles. Appreciate it. Talk with you next week.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Stay safe.
I want to thank Dr. Michael Prince. Also, legendary football coach at Southern University, Coach Pete Richardson, for joining me on today's show, and legendary Coach Van Headaway. All of you, be safe. Appreciate you listening in. Make sure you tune in next Saturday at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Until next Saturday, as always, peace and definitely God bless.